Our listeners, our viewers, for extended family.
Just loud.
You good? It needs a little more volume. You hear?
Good.
Yeah. It's not good. There we go. Yeah.
Is it for me?
The camera's not on. Welcome to the Spirit in Mind broadcast with your hosts, Bishop C. Guy Robinson and Dr. Jonathan Shepard, where we explore faith and mental health perspectives on current affairs. Let's get into today's discussion with the Spirit in Mind. Well, great day, everyone, and welcome to Spirit in Mind, where we discuss current affairs with faith and mental health perspectives. I'm Bishop Guy Robinson, and it is a delight and an honor to have this time to share with you today. Also grateful to have our co-host and colleague, Dr. Jonathan Shepard. Dr. Shepard, hello.
Hey, good afternoon, Bishop. How are you doing, sir?
Awesome, awesome. And how was your week?
Week has been good, a lot of activity, and I'm anxious to get into the show because it's going to deal with a lot of things I had to face even this week.
Yes, yes. So we're going to talk about an important subject. So listen, what we need to do is a couple of things. One is let somebody know that it's time for Spirit in Mind. Text somebody, pull the car over. If you are driving, someone who's driving, tell them to turn to Praise 106.1. We are live right now. And if you are somewhere else, then you can join us on any of our streaming platforms. But give them the information. And we want to give you this number right here at the jump 443. Make sure you write this down. Phone number here at the studio 443 380 2803. 443 380 2803, because we want to invite you to call in and be a part of our discussion today, right here on Spirit in Mind. Dr. Shepard's going to give some of the other ways that you can reach out to us, because we believe in the power of connection.
And we want you to continue to connect. We want to make sure that even as you're listening to us right now, that you connect, go to your different social media pages. You want to follow us on YouTube. You can follow our Spirit in Mind pages, where we have various different things to inform you, different podcasts, previous episodes you can go back and listen to. So go back to our YouTube page, follow us, go there and like, share. We also have an Instagram page and Facebook. Then you can reach out to us individually. Bishop C. Guy Robinson is a noted author, pastor, public figure, and speaker. And you can reach out to him via email, his office. If you want to look him up on Facebook, Instagram, CGR Ministries. You can also go over to the church's website. He's the pastor of the Tabernacle Church, 2100 West Baltimore Street, and he'll gladly like to see your face in the place. They'll gladly welcome you. I'll say it like that. And direct care services for your spiritual needs. I'll say it like that, Bishop. And then I have direct care services for your mental health needs. Bishop can take care of mental health needs too. But I'll just say mental health needs, if you have already gone, you got your spiritual needs taken care of, but you need someone to talk to on a more consistent basis, a therapist, a psychiatrist, you can reach out to me. My Gmail address, they're listed for those who are following us on social media. Go there, like my Facebook page, Dr. Jonathan Shepard, Instagram, Dr. J Shep, and my website is backup.drjonathanshepard.com, and we'll gladly service you. And looking forward to our discussion today. Please, don't turn us off. We want to make sure that you're a part of this discussion today.
Absolutely. Listen, we've been talking about the reality of stress and the stressful times in which we live. And we've been talking about coping strategies. Listen, as just by way of recap, we've said that stressful experiences are part of this life, and we talked about various forms of stress, episodic, acute stress, and chronic stress. And we talked about the fact that, scripturally, Jesus said, in this life, not you might have, but you shall have tribulations. And he said that to his disciples. So even for those of us who are in relationship with Christ and Christians, none of that exempts us from the reality of stressful experiences. But what is helpful is to have the key question is, how are you coping with the stressors in your life? That makes a big difference. So we've been talking about that. Last week we talked about some of the unhealthy ways people, we kind of summarized them by some studies that people, when they get stressed, some of the unhealthy ways or less healthy ways are overeating, overspending. And so we talked about that. And getting abusing substances and those kinds of things. And so we talked about that. And we want to continue that discussion today. And so we want to keep that question out there. How do you cope with your stressful situations? And that's going to be the riding question or the driving question for our discussion today. 443 380 2803 is the call in number. Dr. Shepard's going to take us further in our discussion for today.
Yeah, absolutely. So please call in. Let us know how you're managing your stress because stress is real. Stress is real. We've talked about the various forms of stress, and we want to deal with a topic that people do not like to talk about, but it is in the room. It's where you reside, it's where you work at, it's in your church, it's in whatever organization you're part of, and that is suicide. And how does suicide and stress management interact or interface, if you would? That's because as you're dealing with stress, one of the ways people will look to do is to take their own life. And as I was preparing for this week, I wanted to talk about the value of life because when you are stressed, it can seem that your life is not valuable. I really, Bishop, have been just wrestling with this. This week has been a very interesting week for me as I've been made aware of various successful suicide attempts, even connected to my profession with people who have worked in, around me, or in various situations or organizations and have taken their own life. 44-year-old young man and others who I know this past week as we are mourning their loss. And, it was really, really was impactful to me to think about the value of life. And I struggled, and even if you hear me hesitating even in this part, because when you think about the level of stress, Bishop, that is happening in this world, it does seem like it's hard to be able to function. Life has changed. COVID-19 pandemic, yes, it has. But I'll be honest with you, even before the pandemic was even occurring, there were things that were happening in this world, in this society, because the suicide rates for Black youth were already on the rise before COVID-19 pandemic hit. Make sure you go out and do your research and know that, because the American Academy of Pediatrics had already declared a national emergency for Black youth from ages 5 to 12 because they are taking their own lives. And so I've been struggling with, Bishop, as to the value of life and as we work with the stress, because one thing that stress does, it will cloud your judgment. It will cause you not to be able to view or see things the way in which they really are. Now, I thought you said, Dr. Shepard, that stress is necessary. Stress is necessary, but it's how you manage the stress. It's how you work with that stress. It's how you work through that stress. Because if you don't allow that stress to be managed, it will build up. And if anyone out there is a cook and you have any pressure cookers, if you don't allow the steam to be released, it's going to blow its top. And that's what we've seen sometimes, where stressors after stressors after stressors. We see that with grief, cumulative grief, one thing after another after another. One of my close friends, she lost, or her mother transitioned to go back to be home with the Lord. And let me tell you, that's hard when you have experienced grief, one after one after one after another loss. And so, Bishop, that's where we're starting out today. The value of life, learning how to make sure we're using proper coping skills. So many of us have coping skills, but they're not healthy ones. And I'm not talking about ones where you're using substances, illicit substances. I'm not even going there, you. I'm talking about things that help you to build up your holy faith, build up your physical body, build up your emotional being, your mental well-being. I'm gonna stop right there, Bishop. But that's where we are today.
And it's an important subject. Thank you, Dr. Shepard, for introducing that for our discussion today because it is so very important that we appreciate the value of life. Life has meaning, it has sacredness. You know, the scriptures say that it is the Lord who has given to us life, breath, in all things.
Yes.
So life comes from the Lord. There's a sacredness to it. And of course, the psalmist said, "My times, Lord, are in your hand." And so, so all of my life, all of your lives, all of each and every one of us who are listening, our lives come from God and they are in God. Paul again said in Acts 17, he said, He's given to us life, breath, and all things, and it is in Him that we live, move, and have our being. And so that appreciation for sacredness of life, I even want to suggest is one of the things that has to come back to the center of our value system, even in our streets, and the violence that is perpetrated in our streets. There's a sacredness to life that has to be honored for our overall well-being. And so life is important. I guess if I had to sum up what we're trying to say, and your life matters, and the stress is real, but there is help and there is hope. And so we've been talking about how to cope with that. And again, 443-380-2803, because we welcome any, it's a dialogue here. What do you do when life is overwhelming? We talked last week and some persons lifted up, of course, this is Spirit of Mind, talked about the power of being connected to their faith and going to God in prayer. And of course, the scriptures say, when my heart is overwhelmed, lead me to the rock. Of saying when life is overwhelmed, when stress is just too much, and there's so many types of manifestations of stress in our world today, work-related stress and social stress and social peer pressure, all the other types of stress. So how do you cope? How do you get through it? And we got little guests, some guests here and I'm saying because we're branching out on Spirit in Mind. We're grateful for our engineer, Minister Kat Henderson. We're grateful for Malik. We're grateful for the whole team that makes this happen. Dr. Shepard's going to introduce our special guest today.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, Bishop, one of the things that I've been reading is over in Psalm 127. I know a lot of people use that particular psalm for various different reasons, but something struck me as I read it, and it talks about it is useless. This is verse 2. It is useless for you to work so hard from early morning until late at night, anxiously working for food to eat, for God gives rest to his loved ones. That thing has been like resonating with me because that's exactly how so many of us are. We just work, we just work, we just work, we just work. And many times we're just working and we don't really have a plan. And we're working outside of our purpose. And that's one of the major reasons why people are so stressed. That's one of the reasons why they find themselves wanting to take their own lives. And so, our special guest today is one of those persons who we brought in because she is in the middle of her college training. And I remember being in college, and sometimes I was working and feeling like there was no purpose, Bishop.
Right.
And then I also remember that it's hard to manage stress when you're in college.
Absolutely.
And then I also remember, as we get ready for our guest, that I saw people actually take their own lives in college.
Yes.
And so I thought that this was so appropriate. We did to invite London on in and just talk about how she has managed stress. We're so proud of her. She's down there, down in Atlanta, doing well in undergrad. So come on and introduce yourself, London, to our audience and let them know what you're doing, what year you're in.
Hello, everyone. My name is London. I am a junior women's studies major with a concentration of women in health from Baltimore, Maryland, and I do attend Spelman College, the number one HBCU for the last 16 years.
All right, represent.
Yes, absolutely.
And so, yeah, we want to hear about how you're managing your stress down there in Spelman. It's wonderful to be in a HBCU. Those who don't know what that means, historically black college and universities, to be about amongst your own people. But yet, stress is real. So we want to hear, how do you manage stress?
And what does it look like for
Yes.
a college student? Because some people are older may assume, life looks just wonderful. So what does stress look like for somebody at your age and stage of development?
Okay. So being at Spelman, everybody knows it's an academically rigorous college, and even though we are taught to be great, it's very hard to get there. I know freshman year when you first come, it's like, okay, we're in college, it's great. And then second semester hits and it's like, okay, we're really here. And everybody becomes burnt out. Like even in my friend group, we were talking about how second semester freshman year was some of the hardest times that we've ever been through because things hit and you're like, oh, I want to go home. Like I can't do this. Oh, I'm stressed. Like you have test after test, exam after exam. Then you want to be involved on campus. Then you have you have extracurricular activities, you're in the chapel, you are in this org, and it's like there's so much going on, but like I can't give anything up because I want to be great. But like we have this mentality that if I'm not doing anything, I'm not being great.
Wow.
And I feel as though as young people we need to get out of that mentality. Like I was on social media the other day and this girl who just graduated from Spelman, she was like, now that like I graduated, I feel like I have nothing to do and there's no purpose anymore.
Wow.
She's like, I went to school for 4 years, I graduated magna cum laude, and now I'm like, what am I doing now with my life? And I feel like I told her that you need to give yourself grace. Like you've been going, going, going. You need to rest. We're supposed to rest. So
Mm-hmm.
how I find myself coping with stress, even though I stress out all the time, I definitely take time for myself. I say no to things when people are like, "Oh, London, can you show up to this event? Can you do this? Can you help me make this?" No, like I know when I'm at my wit's end.
Mm-hmm.
So definitely realizing when you're at your peak.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
That's good.
I definitely go to church. I go to church quite often.
Yeah.
Whether it's watching, whether it's listening to worship music, whether it's like just having a Bible study with my friends, little things like that take the stress out of my life. And also hanging out with my friends. Like I feel like we need to surround people who support us.
That's right.
And being in college, a lot of people don't have that support system. That's another level of stress because now you're experiencing something that you've never done before without your team, without your support, without your backup. So I feel like surrounding yourself with people who support you not only academically, not only extracurricularly, but spiritually, mentally, you have to surround yourself with people who even notice when you're at your end and you don't notice it, and you're like no, London, you're burnt out. Take a minute.
That's
So
right.
that's how I handle my stress.
Very good. Very
Very
good.
good. Very
And I
good.
want, I want to tell people, come on and call in as we're already halfway through the show, 443-380-2803. And Bishop, that was just so profound. I wrote the question, and I'm curious to hear how you may respond, Bishop, how you may respond, London. What happens when the passion runs out? Because that is what happens when we are at our wits' end. And because passion, does drive you, and if you're not careful, it'll just be all emotion. And on this show, those who follow us for years know that we've talked a lot about emotional regulation. And so, as you were just talking, London, it really was a question that really just resonated in my life. What happens when the passion runs out? And understanding that the value of who you are, the value of what you're doing, the value of being a student, the value of even that person who now has accomplished a great feat. The fact that you actually finished college, that's huge. And now, like, man, what do I do next? There is somebody out there right now, London, who heard what you were saying. I really believe that. And they're like, man, she just described me. And we want you to know, let's utilize these healthy coping skills. Don't give up. Bishop, I'm going to take it over. But I tell you, that thing about passion running out, what do you do after that? That just hit me.
Yeah, yeah. London, just I was disclosure. So it's been an honor. London grew up at the Tabernacle. Oh my goodness, and grew out
Yes.
and grows back in when she's in town. So we've got to see all of her stages of development, and it's powerful because what you described and using it a lot. just described really the stages of burnout.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
They really in many disciplines, sometimes it's what is called the five stages of burnout. The honeymoon stage, and this is wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
This is great. That's what I heard you say. This is our freshman year, first year orientation, yay! And then there's the onset of stress. You start going like you described it perfectly. Okay, wow,
We're here.
this thing is real. We're here, and then that can kind of devolve into chronic stress when you're persistently tired and having chronic exhaustion. And I'm going through this so somebody here can listen and maybe recognize what stage you're in because intervention becomes critical. And so at that chronic stress stage, you start, denying your problems, saying stuff like, I gotta grind, which is an interesting term. We glorify it.
Yeah.
But grinding literally
Wow.
means to reduce to rubble.
Come on.
And so
Come on, Bishop.
and we say it as if it's something honorable, but we're really,
Right.
reducing ourselves in terms of our capacity. But in that chronic stress phase, you start making excuses for the chronic exhaustion. And then burnout itself is when you become obsessed with problems, pessimistic, have physical symptoms, self doubt, social isolation. You pointed to that, chronic physical stuff, all of that. And when that becomes a way of life, it becomes stage five, habitual burnout
Mm-hmm.
with chronic sadness, chronic mental fatigue, chronic physical fatigue, and even those symptoms of depression and all that kind of stuff start kicking in. So that's so important. And I just went through those five real quick so that if you recognize any of that, hey, there's help and there's hope. You got to start. You need to have a conversation. And so London said some of the things. Anything you want to add to that in your experience?
Definitely want to hit on the burnout topic. This is something that I just went through. After school ended, while I was applying to jobs, for the summertime, and I got a job working in DC. Now, if you know how far DC is, that is like a good hour and a half, on a good day. And I was working there and 8 to 5. So I had to leave my house at like 6. And I literally took a final exam on Monday, hopped on a plane, came to Baltimore on Monday night, and had to be in DC Tuesday morning at 8 a.m.
Wow.
And literally, I did that for a week. And I was like, oh no, I can't do this. Like, it wasn't worth my mental state because I was tired. I got home by maybe 6:37. I was asleep by 8 o'clock. And I realized that I didn't have time for myself. I didn't like enjoy anything anymore because I was so tired. And I'm like, oh, well, I gotta grind. I gotta get money this summer. I'm moving into my apartment. Da 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 da. But it's like at a certain point, like you have to put yourself first. And I preach this to my friends all the time. If it's not adding to you, take it away. So that's one thing I do want to say is that if you realize like this is not adding to me, this is not making me happy, this is stressing me out, take it away.
I have one question for you, London. What can we do to support you and other college students before we let you go today? So, because it's very interesting, we want to make sure that we are supporting those who are in your arena, those who are in school.
I definitely say in order to be a support person, you have to listen.
Okay.
And I feel like a lot of parents, they're like a lot of people who are first generation college students. I feel like have it worse because they are in a space where their parents didn't go to college. Now they feel like they have all this stress on them. Like, oh, I have to make it. I have to do this in 4 years. I have to be the breadwinner. And I feel like we have to listen and see the warning signs, like the signs of burnout, and
Mhm.
also you have to be willing to step in when that person can't step in for themselves.
Mhm. Wow.
Wow. So those relationships become key.
Yes.
Oh my goodness. Listen, I know we're in our last couple of minutes, but it's still not too late to call over or chat in the line. But hopefully this is helping somebody today. Because again, we're reiterating that there's help and hope. Another thing you said is that so you may need somebody to work through those issues and even maybe help us to define what greatness means for us.
Mhm.
Because I heard you saying there's a lot of pressure to be successful. And words like successful and great are relative. And so sometimes we have to adjust our expectations because greatness for us might not be being a celebrity or a billionaire.
Right.
It might mean you could, as Dr. Martin Luther King said famously, that if you're, a street sweeper, you can be excellent. You can be the very best and be great. He said actually anybody can be great.
That's right.
It's a mindset of giving your best. And Dr. Shepard said something powerful about passion and purpose. They really should monitor each other, because passion without purpose leads to burnout.
Yes, absolutely.
and purpose governs our ability to take care of ourselves, because sometimes self-care becomes necessary to fulfill purpose. And so again, you can have passion, but that doesn't always mean that you have purpose. We don't have time because we're in our last minute, but David had passion in the Bible to build God a house. But God said, as passionate as you are about it, it's not your purpose. So you have to align passion with purpose. And so we maybe have stuff we talk about in the future. But Dr. Shepard, I know we're in our last 30 seconds or so we want to have some closing words.
Yes, sir. And so thank you, everyone. Thank you, London, for being
Yes,
with us. We appreciate that. And it just added a whole other dimension to thank you, Malik. And we want you all to please know that we are concerned about you. Please find us on the different social media outlets and contact us throughout the week. We're hearing from you. We're hearing that you're enjoying the show. I'm hearing more and more people saying we're tuning in at 1 o'clock on Saturdays, and we're thankful that you're doing so. Please know that we're concerned about you. I want to say that again. You don't have to give up. You don't have to give in. You heard London. Even when you are going through, know that there are boundaries you can set. There are people who are concerned about you. There are people who you can go to. Please reach out to Bishop C. Guy Robinson. Reach out to me. We'll be here for you. Bishop, that's all I want to say today.
Excellent. And we thank you again for joining us. And listen, we're adding, and thank God for Spirit in Mind growing. We got London with us today. We got more guests coming that we'll be talking about and introducing. We had guests last week. And so we're expanding, and you're a part of it. We thank you for it. And please let someone know that we're here, and invite them to join us. And if, as God is our help, we look forward, by the grace of God, to seeing you and joining you and talking to you and connecting with you next time on Spirit in Mind.
Don't forget to follow us on social media. We're on Facebook at Spirit in Mind, and we're also on Instagram at Spirit in Mind Live. Join us next time for a new episode of Spirit in Mind.